Have you ever thought, man, now that I'm living eco-friendly, I can't travel, it's too wasteful? Well, think again. Today, we're talking about all sorts of ways that you can zero waste travel, low waste travel, because there's no way to do it for really zero waste, but focusing on things not just like emissions and flying, but also physical waste and how to just have a less wasteful experience overall. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all sorts of things zero waste, but we focus on free, easy, and fun ways to live zero waste. And today, we're talking about extra fun ways to live zero waste, and that is how to travel zero waste. It might be a little bit late in the season, but I thought this would be a great video to put out during like summer vacations and summer travels and all of that. So hopefully this helps you. If not, you don't have a vacation planned this year, save it, come back to this video when you do have a travel plan, travel plans plural. And I also have a full playlist on zero waste travel. You can check it out up here. I used to focus a lot on zero waste travel back in like 2020 and 2021 because that was kind of where I wanted my channel to go because I was really big into travel, and then COVID happened. And like, I'm still into travel, but we really don't travel like we used to. It's also harder now being in the US. It was so cheap to travel out of Okinawa. So that being said, my channel is chock full of zero waste travel tips, and you can definitely go check them out. They are all going to be linked down below for you. But I wanted to make an updated one as well as a compiled one because I've made like several different topic videos. This is kind of combining them all into a one-stop shop for you. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right in. These are kind of in order and like going from packing to like all the way to partaking in touristy things when you're at your travel destination. They might not be in perfect order, but anyway, let's go. My first tip, always bring your reusables. It's so easy to just pack even just something like this that could be used as a water bottle and a coffee cup together. But you could bring them separately, a reusable water bottle and a reusable coffee cup, your reusable utensils, your reusable bags, and even a reusable container. One that I have found that I really like recently is from Stojo because they collapse really small. I'm not a huge fan of their cups, but their containers are really nice, especially for traveling. And that will come into play in a future tip, but in short, it's so that if you want to dine out or get takeout, you can still do that with little waste. People in the US, you know that it's very difficult to fly with liquids. In other countries, like in Japan, we could go through security with a full water bottle, but in the US, you can't have a full water bottle. You can have an empty water bottle, and you can fill it up once you get through security. Same with a coffee cup if you want to get a quick coffee before your flight takes off, or whatever it may be. I always bring a reusable bag as well because when I travel, I try to like cook a little bit as well just to save money. Of course, I like to check out the local cuisine and everything, but sometimes it's just easiest to buy a few things at the store and cook at home at the Airbnb, and that's why the grocery bag comes into play. But also, don't be afraid to bring your zero waste essentials with you. Don't leave them all at home and opt for those single-use individual shampoos and conditioners and stuff. Bring your shampoo bars, bring your conditioner bars, bring your toothpaste tabs and your bamboo toothbrush. I don't know what other zero waste essentials you might want for traveling. I'm just trying to think of like zero waste toiletries. There's also like mouthwash tablets, and a lot of these too will help you go through TSA because now you don't have to take your set amount. What is it, like 3.4 ounces? You can take as much shampoo bar as you want to because it's a solid, and then it'll last you the entire trip and you won't need to use multiple little bottles. And then of course this all reduces waste once you get to your hotel and you don't have to use their single-use little bottles either. Next is to bring your own entertainment. I'm not really sure how popular it is these days to like buy entertainment in the airport because they sell things like books and magazines, earbuds. I guess maybe going on that, just plan and prepare. Make sure you have everything you need so that you don't have to rebuy things like earbuds or a neck pillow or things like that. But I feel like this was probably more common, you know, before the smartphone was invented, buying entertainment in an airport. But regardless, bring your own entertainment. Download stuff on your phone to Netflix or Prime or whatever you use for streaming. Bring your own book, bring your own magazines or crossword puzzles or whatever you want to use to stay busy in the airport to prevent you from having to buy this stuff. You might use it, but you also might not. It might end up becoming waste. And also pack your own snacks. This is something I feel like people don't know, is that TSA will allow you to bring food through as long as the food is a solid, and that's up for debate. Apparently peanut butter and jelly are liquids, not when they're on bread. You can bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich through, but of course if you want to bring like a jar of peanut butter through TSA, it has to be under the 3.4 ounces because it's considered a liquid. Same with hummus. Ground up chickpeas and ground up peanuts are liquid. But I could bring an entire jar of peanuts on a plane. So definitely look up the rules when it comes to foods that are kind of in between a liquid and a solid state. Depending on that, TSA might not let you bring it through, but things like oatmeal, sandwiches, salads, pastas. There are a lot of solid food options that you can bring through TSA, but this isn't just for flying either. Pack your own food regardless of whether you're on a train, you're carpooling, you're on a boat. This just saves so much waste because now you don't have to buy a bunch of prepackaged stuff. Even if it's not like the most eco-friendly thing to make your own sandwiches at home because it does contain some plastic, it's still going to be less plastic than buying it in an airport or at a convenience store or on a train. This can also be super, super low waste if you have access to things like a bulk store and you can get snacks package free. And it will also probably save you a lot of money because I'm sure, as we all know, airline food, train station food, it's all very expensive. When you're eating out on a road trip, where did I mention this? I think in my zero waste moving video, if you want to watch that, tips on how to move zero waste up here. That tip is to, when you're eating out, choose restaurants that create less waste. This might be hard to judge if you've never been to a restaurant before. Like on our way from Vegas up to Washington, we tried to hit a few like smaller restaurants instead of just big chains. And so it was hard to judge those because we've never been to them before. But what I mean is Chipotle, they're relatively low waste. Their aluminum covers for their bowls can be washed and recycled. Their paper bowl bottoms can be composted. Their entire bag is just paper. They have very little plastic is what I'm saying, and a lot of it is recyclable or compostable. I don't know. Something like Taco Bell versus a restaurant that will serve it in a styrofoam container with plastic utensils, with a plastic bag. Like at least Taco Bell's bag is paper and you can eat the food with your hands. It's very minuscule, sure, but I just wanted to throw it in here and give you all the advice I have. But the other option too is to just bring your own container. As I hinted at earlier, when you are getting to go, whether you're on the road or you're actively in the area that you're like being a tourist in, carrying your own container that you can get to go food without having to worry about all the waste is a great thing to do. Next is to pack lightly. What does this have to do with anything? Airplanes, a lot of this is about airfare, but airplanes use more fuel the heavier the plane is. Sure, you reducing the size of your suitcase by 2 pounds probably isn't going to matter much, but what will matter is if you take like a 40-pound suitcase and turn it into like a 20-pound book bag instead. That will also save room, meaning they can put more on the plane. And it's also just going to be more convenient for you. It's less of a hassle. Now you don't have to go to baggage claim. Now when you're like trying to get on a train at your destination or a subway or catch a taxi, you don't have to shuffle all these bags. I personally just like to pack lightly because it's more convenient for me. But it can be a little bit more eco-friendly, even if it is just a small amount. This tip specifically for flying is to take direct flights. Why? That's because when a plane is taking off and landing, specifically taking off, that's when they're using the most fuel. So the more flights you're having, the more carbon emissions you're going to be creating, even if it is pretty close to the same distance. So I guess this could be to take the fewest amount of flights as possible. Like when you're booking a flight, if this one says 1 layover versus 2, pick the one with 1 layover, because for me right now, I'm living in a city with a small airport and my hometown is a small airport. So there's no direct flights. So if I want to travel home, it will be a layover. So I would just try to pick something that's 1 layover versus 2 or 3 or more. Gosh, I swear if it's 3 layovers to get to Ohio, not worth. Not worth. Sorry, fam. Maybe this one a different cup. Much better. I biked to the coffee shop this morning to get myself a little treat. And that cup, while it was good for carrying on my bike, that's much more pleasant to drink out of. Speaking of trains, I mean planes, but this could also be applied to trains, is to use an e-boarding pass. Ooh, I just thought of another tip. We'll touch on it in just a second. If you're not familiar with an e-boarding pass, I'll show you what one looks like. I'm sure I still have one in here. You'll get an email that says, like, you're ready to check in for your flight. Do you want to check in? You can check in, and then your boarding pass will be prepared. And from there, you should be able to click, like, download boarding pass, and you can download it. If you have an iPhone, it'll go right to your, like, iWallet. Let's see. From Chubu. Where's Chubu? To Naha. February? Where did we go in February? It's in Japanese. I can't read it. Here's one. Here's an American one on Spirit. But that's what they look like. And then they can just scan this QR code, that barcode right there. This also will save you time. Because now you don't have to go up to the gate, to the desk to print a boarding pass. Especially if you only have a carry-on. If you pack lightly and have an e-boarding pass, you can go straight to your gate. You're not going to be at the airport that long. So... But this also goes for trains. I feel like I've not been on a train in the US. Do they do boarding passes? I don't know. But if they do, do an E1. Something we did do in Japan, though, was we used a little card. I've got it somewhere. That you could just load money onto tap the little scanny thing and it would let you through. Then you tap it again when you get off and it charges you whatever amount it was for that stop. And we did this instead of having to like print off individual tickets. We did do that sometimes, like if we had to buy like a pre-scheduled train ticket like we did on the bullet train, but regular old trains, zero waste. Just your little scanny card. This next tip is to slow travel. Now, what does that mean? This means slow travel. Instead of say, I'm just going to keep using Japan as an example because that's where I've traveled the most. Instead of say, I flew from Okinawa to Tokyo, stayed there for a night, and then flew to Osaka, stayed there for a night, and then flew up to, what's it called? Maybe I flew then down to Nagasaki, and then from there I flew up to Onna or something. I don't even think you can fly into Onna. But like, over 5 days, I took like 5 flights, and I just kept jumping around and jumping around. Even if you're doing it on a train, you're just jumping around, jumping around. Slow travel is more like getting to your place, and then like, not going anywhere, not using any transportation, getting to know that area, traveling that area, perhaps even doing it like on bike or foot or public transportation. And then this kind of goes into the next few tips as well, is to just not do the overly touristy things because 1, they're typically wasteful, and 2, a lot of the times they're not run by like ethical, sustainable companies. And the most prominent example I can think of is riding elephants in Thailand. A lot of them are like not sustainable. I mean ethical, mostly ethical. I'm sure they're like not terribly wasteful when it comes to like physical waste, but they're not like ethical. And the same can be said for waste as well. But some slow travel activities might be some things we did in Japan. We did like a fabric dyeing class in Okinawa. That was like a traditional way that they dyed fabrics. We took ferries a lot. And then one of our favorite things to do is to just go hike, just go walk around in nature. Uses no energy, like no fossil fuels. And it was also a great way to meet really amazing people. It's to travel off the beaten path, especially if you're in a foreign country and you speak even a lick of the local language. Like, I spoke like kindergarten level Japanese, probably lower. And every single time they're like, oh, you speak Japanese? And like instant friends. What I've been meaning to say about this whole slow travel thing is to also just frequent the local businesses, try to give back to your local area in some way, because by traveling to their area, you know, over tourism, I made a video about over tourism a while ago and how it can not only be a problem environmentally, but also just locally with like light pollution, noise pollution, maybe not so much like air pollution, but like physical pollution by like littering. So just respect the place that you're frequenting. Don't litter, even pick up litter if you see it. If you have the time, like volunteer with a local organization, but really just give back to the local community. Don't travel all the way to Tokyo to go to McDonald's. Travel to Tokyo to go to some random little ramen shack and give back to one individual and not a company. Try to find a way to benefit the area that you're traveling to instead of causing harm to it by traveling there. Hopefully that makes sense. And some things that I can think of off the top of my head are like, people go to the Grand Canyon and then they graffiti on the walls. Like, obviously that's a pretty big extreme, going somewhere to purposefully destroy it, but like even just going somewhere and, you know, walking off path, things that are a little more minuscule, just being loud and obnoxious and disrupting the local wildlife and the people. Aim instead to bring positivity to the area that you're traveling to, even if it's not environmentally, just by being a nice person. Of course, this wouldn't be a zero waste travel video if I didn't talk about not plane travel. Like, travel not by plane if you can help it. I'm not anti-plane for a lot of reasons. I lived on an island for 3 years. I needed a plane to get back to my family. I didn't need one. Sure, I could take a boat across the entire Pacific Ocean, but you know how long that takes? I don't have time for that. I have a job that I have to get back to, and I don't have unlimited PTO. So planes were required there. And like even here, my dad's getting married in a couple weeks, and if I wanted, I mean I do want to, but it's expensive. If I want to go back for the wedding, I only have the weekend to do so because I don't have any PTO right now. Well, that's a long story. But anyway, I would need a plane in order to do it in a timely manner. So I'm not anti-plane, especially as an individual level, as like you and me who are probably only taking a handful of flights a year or less, like 1 or 2. I'm anti-plane when it comes to like the Kardashians flying across LA. That's different. But for those of us who just use it for leisure or even necessity a couple times a year, don't sweat it. If you do have the choice, you have the money, the time, the ability, take a train, a boat, or a car. Something else. The last few times we went to Ohio, we drove, which actually, let's do it. Let's do it live to do a comparison because I talked about this on TikTok forever ago. Let's look up emissions flying. from Spokane to Dayton. Can I even do this? Oh my gosh, flight CO2 calculator. Yeah, give me that. I did this test a while ago about flying versus driving from Las Vegas to Ohio, and they were almost equal. And of course, this does depend. Is it a direct flight? Are you taking the most direct path via car, or are you driving like a big road trip, going like on pit stops? Which airline are you choosing? Because like airlines have different emissions. So it's obviously very, very nuanced. It depends. But for the most part, the way that air travel has advanced over the last decade or so, it's not an insane amount more of emissions to fly versus drive. Now, things like trains, probably more energy efficient, and probably boats as well. I imagine they probably use less energy. I'm not for sure, but let's pick this. Let's do round trip. Let's calculate. Okay, whoa, 5,500 kilometers. It emits 771 kilograms of CO2. That sounds like a lot. Now let's look up CO2 calculator driving. Okay, so I just need distance traveled. So now I need to go to Google Maps. Sorry, I needed to do this side quest. I have my starting point. We'll just put Fairchild. I just need the miles, pal. Please. It's 2,051 miles. Oh, we should make this drive. I've never been to the Dakotas. Ooh, I'd pick that one. This one's a little more miles, but I would pick this route because it goes through North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I wish I went to Michigan. I guess I could. It would be a little bit of a... Anyway, the point, 2,081 miles. Well, I guess I would need to multiply it by 2 to make it fair because I did a 2-way trip. And then I needed to convert it from miles to kilometers. So 2,088, what's 88 times 2? 4,176 miles is 6,720 kilometers. Fuel type, oh gosh, it's probably petrol. Is this a British website? Fuel consumption, liters per 100 kilometers. I don't know. By car type, it is a mid-range car. Actually, I'm gonna put it in the SUV van category. That's not accurate. Sure, I don't care. That's probably close enough. We drive a truck. 2.7 tons? So 2.7 metric tons is 2,700 kilograms. Is that accurate? I guess so. Because the last time I did this, we were driving a Kia Soul, which gets double the gas mileage of the truck. So now let's change it to a compact car, because I would say a Kia Soul is a compact car. It still says 2.7 tons. That feels like a lot. That means the flight is over, that means the car is over 3 times worse than the flight, which is crazy. I'm talking about this for 15 minutes. I'm gonna try to find another one just because I did this forever ago. Like, I calculated my carbon footprint and I did it on like 4 different websites and they were so vastly different. So just for comparison's sake, I'm gonna try to find another one. This has flight and car. We're gonna do them both on the same website. I'm sure this is gonna be the most accurate. We're just gonna do a one-way trip from Spokane to Ohio and then I'll multiply it by 2. One-way flight is 0.85 metric tons. A car, we're gonna call it a 4x4. This feels more accurate to me. Flight, one way, is 0.85 metric tons. Driving one way is 0.73 metric tons. Let me pick a regular car, if we were like still in the Kia Soul. This estimates the truck at about 0.73 metric tons, and it estimates the Kia Soul at about 0.59. So that's really what makes the difference, is depending on the vehicle you're driving. For us, driving a truck the same distance as flying is probably not that much worse. But say we were driving a more eco-friendly car, that would be considerably more eco-friendly to do. Bonus tip I just thought of, when you're booking your flight in Google Flights, like if you specifically use Google Flights and not like go to spiritairlines.com or whatever it's called, Google actually, I'll put a screenshot right here, it will actually show you the flights with the least amount of emissions. So if you want to pick based off of that, you can do that as well. I think that's a really cool feature that they just came out with like last year. Anywho, if it is a road trip, carpool. If it's a road trip, it's probably like you and your family or you and your close friends, you're probably going to carpool anyway, but like maximize your car space as much as possible. If there's say like 8 of you going, You probably don't need to take like 3 or 4 cars. You can probably try to squeeze into 2 cars if possible to reduce emissions that way. When you're driving, set your cruise control. First off, if you're like me and you have a lead foot, it'll prevent you from getting a ticket. We love that. But also, this keeps your miles per gallon or your kilometers per liter the most consistent and can actually like raise them. So that can save you money as well as save emissions being burned. You can also choose your route if possible to burn the less emissions, and you can't actually, I don't think this is a feature on Google Maps. Wait, no, it is. It is a feature on Google Maps. It will show you the most efficient route and it'll have like a little green leaf next to it. So that's pretty cool. But you can also, if you don't have Google Maps, use it. But if you don't, just plan your route accordingly. Like if you can avoid mountains and hills, if you can avoid curves, like just stick on straight roads and straight highways. That will keep your miles per gallon up as well. When you get to your destination and you're choosing to rent a car, choose an EV or a hybrid if possible to reduce emissions that way. You can also just simply travel locally this summer. For example, we've been thinking like, oh, I guess we haven't taken an international trip in a while. I'm like, how fun that would be, but also we're like super excited to just explore this corner of the United States. We have a lot of local trips planned that we're just gonna drive like a quick road trip to and then backpack once we get there. So like very low waste travel this summer, hopefully. But the same could go for you, even just like us traveling within Spokane, traveling, like going to the local museums, being a tourist in your hometown is what it all comes down to. I was really inspired to do this during COVID when like no travel was allowed anywhere, even within the country. So I really got into exploring my hometown, well, not my hometown, but exploring where I was living at the time, and just being a tourist in your area and really getting to know the local people, the local food, partake in local activities and crafts and events. It can be so much fun. If you're doing something this summer that has to do with like hiking, backpacking, fishing, like off-road driving, jet skiing, whatever sort of like outdoor rec you might be doing, see if you can just rent the gear instead, because this is so much cheaper. You might not even like the activity, and if you buy it, all of that gear is then wasted. So rent instead. Renting is also just more eco-friendly because then we don't have to produce a bunch of the same thing if everybody can just use it all together and just share. But if you do want to buy your own gear, look secondhand. My favorite places to look secondhand for gear are Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, eBay, and then REI. You do have to become a member at REI to shop their secondhand stuff, but it's like $20, $30 for a lifetime membership. I don't think it's even an annual cost. I think it's like $30, period. And I found so much good secondhand gear. I found this backpack on OfferUp. Dan found his backpack on Facebook. If you are vegan or vegetarian, you can download the app Happy Cow so that you can continue to eat your more eco-friendly diet while you're traveling. And then also just eat like locally and seasonally when you're traveling. I mean, the same goes for when you're at home, just to make your diet the most eco-friendly that you can. I think that's all that I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have some fun, eco-friendly travels this summer and beyond. Leave your eco-friendly travel tips down below and check out the rest of my playlist because I do have a ton of tips in this playlist that I think can help you out a lot. Let me know where you're traveling this summer. Give me ideas as well as make me jealous. We can't travel until October because we're still in the military, but we're not in the military. We're doing SkillBridge, and if you want to learn more about what SkillBridge is and what we're doing, and why we can't take leave, you can watch this video up here. But our contracts will officially be up, mine will, September 25th. Coming soon. And I'll be home free to travel wherever I want, without the government having to give me the green light first. That's annoying. So we are traveling locally this summer. And then we'll probably travel to Ohio this fall. And then we have no foreseeable travel plans, so give me ideas. Also coming this summer is some more zero waste outdoors and leave no trace tips. So if you are someone who wants to get into backpacking and hiking this summer, I have some tips for you. And let me know what other sort of content you want to see from me this summer. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new here so we can talk up more about fun ways to live zero waste. And I'll see you in next week's video. Until then, remember that your small actions have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. We took ferries a lot, and we would just oh my gosh, but this they like the kitty, they like Mochi. They came by just to see Mochi. We have her outside on the leash a lot, and these girls have been riding their scooters like non-stop every single day. And I think they just have found an affinity for mochi, so that's pretty cute. Maximize your car space if at